Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at neutral tempo Rune. It's been picking up a little bit around the place, not super heavily, but by the time this video comes out I'm sure it'll probably be a little more popular or completely gone, who really knows. Either way, we're running a full pretty much neutral package, 0 spells. We're running the Grimoire for extra card draw on top of everything else that's just crazy card draw. I mean, Witches of Sweets is draw, White Cat, draw. Bloody Goblin Mage is a draw. Gourmet Emperor gives you an extra card, so your hand should pretty much be stocked 90% of the game. You should never really be out of cards in this situation. The only real problem is you can easily get high rolled by higher stats, so you can get completely dominated by really heavy control decks. But against aggro decks, this deck does do pretty well at keeping its tempo and keeping the board clear while also dealing damage. So we'll get right into some games here. So, game 1 we have is against Rune. Not too surprising. Sorry, against Shadow. I'm playing Rune. Make sure I get that right. Either way, Shadow's not too bad. I mean, most of them are running aggressive, so you can usually just tempo them out pretty nicely. Of course, if they have an optimal hand, you're screwed no matter what, but that's how top tier decks work, so nothing you can really do. For your initial hand, you're looking for 1, 2, and then 3 drops, preferably with your 3 drop being either Grimoire or anything solid like Angel of Word that can proc out the early game. But a hand like this isn't too bad. 3 1 drops allow you to fill the board pretty nicely early and get in that little bit of damage. Which is kind of what you're after. Then having to use Zombie Party isn't bad either, and the Mysterian Grimoire is a great card. I mean, the extra draw is amazing. Obviously you can't run it in a spell-based deck much because you will risk losing whatever spells you have in your hand at the time. But just being able to play it and get those couple of draws in a neutral variant is pretty good. Especially when you want to restock your hand over and over again. So Merman doing a little more value, getting us some more damage in. 13 on turn 4, can't really go wrong with that. Plus, Shadow doesn't really have a way to do a really big board clear very effectively, so a bunch of really low cost things are really good at dealing with Shadow. So from here we have a couple options. I mean, the Hector's not bad, the Witches of Sweets are pretty good too. They do provide a nice amount of draw power. And the Goblin Mage, also another good draw card, getting those 1 or 2 drop cards. And the Mysterian Grimoire just chipping in damage again. No need to worry about that 3-3, as turn 5 the worst they can have is probably Cerberus. So there's no real trouble to us. Now best to get to trade with 2 things, and then we get at least 4 damage with the Grimoires, which is actually lethal due to Hector. Hector is a 5 cost, deal 3 damage if you have at least 3 neutrals. So that plus the evolve is a quite quick lethal for this game. When this deck works, it works. When it doesn't, it bricks real bad. Well, not really bricks, but locks up, and it makes things more difficult. So game 2 is against Sword. This time I definitely got it right, so that's good. It's a ambushy sword style deck, running, you know, your standard ambush cost cards. You can do alright against them as long as they don't have optimal amulets. That way you can pretty much outvalue them for the most part. And in the best case, force a trade. So you're going to be playing out, say, the Gourmet turn 3. That's kind of what you want. Gourmet turn 3 is good if your opponent doesn't really have a board. Just because getting that carrot into your hand early really opens up some nice plays in the later game where you can just keep playing carrot to either trade or chip in damage, and they pretty much have to keep removing it or you're going to get value out of it one way or another. So as we play basically curve, so we play whatever 2 drop we can just to try and out aggro this Sword, because Sword does have a really nice amount of aggro power even in its ambush swords. Fortunately, Frog does drop, and we don't have any effective way to deal with that as we don't carry any major removal. So we're mainly looking to out-aggro them, completely hit them in the face, and avoid any real damage. Fortunately, they do play the Princess Vanguard, along with a 2-1. Neither of these are a big threat. I mean, we've got our own Alice, we've got the gourmets, carrots, Snow White, plenty of options for the following turn. Unfortunately, even another Alice, so now everything in our hand gets another boost, putting everything at roughly a 4-4 or higher. It's nice when you have a 4-4 carrot. So, take the trade, make sure they can't deal a lot of damage because sword is pretty good at killing you from pretty much anywhere when they're running this kind of sword. I mean, Vagabond Frog is a pain, and since we can't easily remove it, we've just got to deal with it. Cyclone Blade, one of the few decks that can actually make it work. So, we aim for a good nice little bit of board flood. Throw out a couple of 4-4s. Stack our carrots a little bit, set up with Time Worn Mage in the next turn hopefully. Just have a really nice structure for the following turns. We don't want to get too walled out here, so making sure we can defend pretty well is important. Fortunately, Time Worn does 2-for-1. It may have been better to use the Time Worn's ability and then kill off the 4-1, but I decided to trade into both. Just because, why not? Overall, I'm going to get to play the carrot, which is really good value. Setting up for hopefully a next turn lethal. And they concede, clearly having nothing left. Okay, game 3 is a mirror match against Rune. And by mirror, I mean mirror. It looks like they were playing a tempo variant as well, which isn't too surprising. So we dump a couple cards. We've already got the 3-drop. I like the Gourmet Emperor a little more than the Angel of Word in situations like this. And we've now got a 2 and 4 drop, even though the Mage isn't very useful to drop. At least it is something. Wise Merman would have been good if we were going first. Going second, not so great. Trying to use it against the 1-2 feels really bad. Fortunately, we get another Mage, so buying one is actually reasonably okay. I don't have to feel too bad about just playing the 1 Mage. Unfortunately though, no way to counter this board from now. Just gotta hope that we get lucky and these Alices can really start pulling in the damage. And there's their Alice. So you can run a couple different things in this deck. This guy's running Grimnir, which does work, especially if you go into a later game. You can use it to kind of regain the board, especially with Alice boosts. Fortunately, my own Alice gets me a little value, I guess. We're able to do a 2-for-1 here, leaving their Alice up, but I don't really see that as being a big threat when I've got my own Alice. Especially since we can play our second Alice and boost everything again, gaining even more stats. This gun's also running Tina, so like I said, a few different cards that you can run depending on how you want to fill out the deck. I personally like the variant I'm running, but it depends on your playstyle. Since they are neutral builds, you know, you've got a bit of versatility. You can play a fair few different things in them if you want. So Mage going for a 2-for-1. Along with any kind of other setup we kind of want. We can play the Witch, we can play the Actress, the alternate carrot. Whatever really, anything kind of works here. Sweet, draw sweet. Suppose it mills out the deck slightly. They unfortunately get Lyriel, which is another good 2-for-1 card. One that you could run and get some good damage out of. Luckily, Alice coming to my rescue, filling our board back up a little bit with high stat followers. And Carrot, due to being a 4-4, actually trades pretty nicely and hopefully can 2-for-1. Mainly what you're looking for, you want to be able to 2-for-1 quite nicely with this deck, keeping up that tempo. Unfortunately, going tempo on tempo, they usually have the same sort of plays you will have, making trades a little more difficult. And this is where Leonardo come in handy. Leonardian Mage, getting that 5 damage on it and allowing me to easily get rid of something else if we so want, while hitting face for 4. Play their Grimoire. What are they going to get? They're going to get 2 draws. And Witch is sweet. Witch is sweets, great. And another Grim, so we've got to get through that. So we're not looking in a very favourable spot. We're actually down a fair bit here. But fortunately, we've got options. I mean, they haven't got enough on board to kill me. They need 3 damage. They have no evolve. No, sorry, 2 damage. They have no evolve, so they can't use that to push. The only Stormfollower would probably be their own Leonardian, which I pretty much lose to anyway. And other than that, they shouldn't be really running spells if they're running Grimoire, so we don't expect those. That's pretty much my assumption, and I go with the Board Flood. So lucky that last game I do make the right prediction, you know, obviously they don't have the 2 damage they need. If it was a normal rune, I would have been more worried, but in that case, I had a pretty easy matchup overall. So like I said, a few things you can swap. I'd recommend swapping White Cat for something. I personally have found it mediocre. It's an okay engine, but you don't really need the draw when you've got other draw cards. And the +1/+1 probably isn't as good as, say, Tina, which gives you an okay trade against other neutrals or just other cards in general. Also, there's, you know, plenty of room. You can kind of mess around with the Gourmets, the Goblins, the Angel of Words. Mess around with those 3 cards, sorry. 2 swapping Grimnirs and whatnot. Other than that though, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, we'll have a link in the description below. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, and I will catch you guys next time. See ya!